You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk right here on Northeast Streaming Sports and Zodiac TV. Want to say good morning to all of our Zodiac TV viewers. A lot of big news coming up. Zodiac TV is going live on some of the more prominent streaming services next Friday. We'll have more news on that next week. But with Northeast Streaming Sports and TGI Sports Talk, we're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're live. And if you can't get to a screen at any time, you can go to iHeartRadio. You can go to Spotify. You can go to pretty much all your podcast outlets. So good morning, everybody. We're going to talk a lot about Major League Baseball today. We're going to talk about the NBA. We're going to talk some NFL, maybe a little NHL. We'll see how the time goes today. And I want to take your topics, too. So if you guys have got things you want to chat about, please bring them up. Oh, gosh, guys. A little bit rainy here in East Greenbush. We're still, well, the first, and hopefully still only live streaming sportscast here in East Greenbush, New York, upstate New York. So welcome. Those of you live with us this morning on all of our outlets, and also those that will see this later. Any of the groups I share to, also, as I say always, thank you. There will be relevant content if I'm sharing it with you. A lot of stuff going on in sports, guys. Baseball season really starting to jump into gear. The NBA winding towards some exciting races as we head towards the playoffs. The Knicks just playing tremendous. We're going to jump into that. And we'll talk about the NFL, a little bit of NFL news as we head towards draft day. Don't forget, Thursday night, 6 p.m. to the finish of the first round of the NFL draft, I'll be co-hosting on the Mac and Jack Show, the live coverage of the 2021 NFL draft. We'll have people, I think Jamie Paggs, the Philly sports guy, will be live on site in I'm forgetting where the draft is now. It'll come to me, I'm sure. Good morning, Sherlock. How are you? As well as anybody else who might be in the room. I can't see your comments because of where you might be commenting from. I'm glad to see you guys this morning. We're going to have some fun this Sunday morning, as we always do. Free-flowing conversation with you guys. We're going to start with baseball today. I got to start with the Oakland A's. The Oakland A's have won 13 straight now. Cleveland, thank you, Rick. The draft is in Cleveland. It's funny. I think it escapes me because Cleveland is not someplace that I think of as a mecca of sports. I'm sorry, Cleveland fans. I don't mean to disparage you that way, but it's got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the rest of your sports teams. Sorry. The Oakland A's, 13 straight now. We talked last week about how they turned things around. I talked on the sports update that I do now Tuesdays and Thursdays on Zodiac TV. Quick update, by the way, every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 7:30 a.m. Just 10, 15 minutes of some news of the day. But the A's, after a 1-7 start, again, have won 13 in a row. They're 14-7. Can't get really clear of the Mariners. This division might be kind of upside down. Well, the Rangers are terrible, but again, we didn't expect a lot out of the Mariners anyway. I thought the Mariners were a year away, but the A's, gosh, the A's have just been on fire. And that's without some of their better players playing that great. I mean, Matt Chapman's only hitting $162. And they got names that you guys are just not going to know. By the way, their offense is only hitting about 220. But they're timely hitting. They're getting great pitching and great defense, Yankees. Maybe we should pay attention. it's phenomenal what Billy Beane has been able to do there year in and year out. I mean, look at the starting pitchers. Do you know any of these guys? Chris Bassett, Sean Mahona. I'm saying that wrong. Manaya, Cole Irvin, Frankie Montas. Guys, Jesus Luzardo, I do know of. But my gosh. Drew's right. The East pitching hasn't been that good, but it's been okay. It's been better than their hitting. It's amazing. This team's won 13 in a row with the numbers that they put up. So, again, there's ways to win. I guess the point of my conversation compare the A's to where the Yankees are. We'll talk about the Yankees in a second. They actually are playing much better right now. But the A's find a way to win without their strengths coming forward, where other teams don't. What we talk about in baseball. They do little things that help teams win. They're not hitting well, but I mean, the A's have always brought guys in based off of some of the, and I'm not a huge analytics guy. You guys know how I feel about analytics, but they look at on base percentage more than other teams for sure. Right? I mean, you've got guys like Matt Olson and Jed Lowry with tremendous on base percentages. Now, that's an analytic that still means something to me. Batting average, slugging percentage, on base percentage, those are always important stats. And it's important analytics. And that's how Billy Beane has really built this team over the years. Not this team, all his teams. And that's how they thrive. What's the audio problem, Rick? What are you hearing? I can't hear it on my end, so from my end, I sound fine. Let me just check something. You guys stay with me for a second. I will try to check my audio and hear what I hear. So don't get confused when you hear me all of a sudden. Thrive. What's the audio problem, Rick? What are you hearing? I can't hear it on my end, so from my end, I sound fine. Well, I do hear a little bit of, yeah, I thought I do hear a little clatter. I'm not sure what that is. Let me see if there's something running that I don't usually have on. Not seeing anything, guys, so let me check one more thing. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with whatever's there. So I apologize, guys. Scratching. Yeah, I had the same problem with one of the updates this week, and then I think it was Thursday, and then Friday everything was fine. Let me bear with me, guys. Sorry, great TV, Keith. Took myself out of the stream for a second. I want to check my audio. Let me check my default microphone, Roadcaster. I'm going to make a quick change here, and let's see what happens. You guys keep me abreast of what's going on. I got a couple of here. Try something different. All right, guys. Oh, probably got to turn my camera back on. Let me know if it's any better, guys. It would have cut out, I think, because I just changed the audio setting a little bit on my Roadcaster. So let me know if it's any better. We'll keep on going here. I guess, or if it's any worse. So again, I'll apologize for any trouble we're having. We probably got to do a little Roadcaster testing here later on today. I thought I had the problem straightened out, but unfortunately. Audio's okay, Carlos says. All right, thanks, guys. Let's move on. So again, the A's are the big story right now, as I said, with that 13-game winning streak. Some other things going on in baseball we have to touch on. I'll wait for the Yankees just so you guys don't think I'm being a homer too much here. I want to talk about the Mets again. Not playing great baseball right now, but I have to tell you guys, Jacob deGrom is just a generational pitcher. He is unbelievable. I'm a big Garrett Cole fan, who I think compares favorably with deGrom, but deGrom's a notch above, and the support the Mets give deGrom is just it's unfortunate. I mean, this guy, a complete game victory on Friday. I think it was Friday night. 2 hits, 15 strikeouts. First of all, we don't see complete games anymore. Just a tremendous, tremendous, tremendous start from deGrom. Yes, deGrom's the best pitcher in baseball. deGrom's incredible. I agree with all of that. And the Mets, I hope, do not, hurt him with their defensive deficiencies and their offensive struggles. Beginning to wonder if the Mets aren't. Yeah, awesome Mets job from deGrom. By the way, the game before this, remember, he lost another, I think, no, I'm sorry, he got a win in his last start. Correct me if I'm wrong. Drew will know. But I believe he got the win. He pitched 7 innings, struck out 14 in that game. In 7 innings, struck out 9 in a row, almost tying ex-Met legend Tom Seaver's record of 10 in a row. Seaver did that, by the way, the night he set then, at that time, the Major League Baseball record for strikeouts in a game since broken of 19. Good morning, Ken Gifford. Good morning to the crew and me. I do take a back seat to you guys, by the way. I agree. We already have hurt his games, but deGrom's, yeah, I mean, again, deGrom's keeping that team afloat. They'll get it together. But, he's been just unbelievably good. I hope the Mets do score some runs for him. You know what? If you're ever going to see, we're not going to see 20-game winners that often anymore, right, guys? Because of the way the games are played, and wins and losses don't seem to matter anymore. But Carrasco and Syndergaard are pitching to live batters. That's good news for the Mets. Carrasco was part of that big trade for Lindor, and a big part of it, not a small part. It's just a throw-in. Carrasco's a good pitcher when he's healthy. And again, he has had some health issues over the years, and now he's got some injury issues to deal with. Again, thank God it's only injuries and not health-related for him. Let's look real quick through the standings before I jump into a few other things about Major League Baseball. And guys, I will tackle any topic you want to talk about. Let's just talk about a good point before I move on. deGrom's also a good hitter, which you don't see a lot because, one of the more ridiculous things in Major League Baseball today, I guess, before I'll get off on a little tangent right away here today. The National League does. I'm not a huge DH fan. I'm an American League fan always. Well, but I'm a Yankee fan. I probably like National League Baseball better because of the strategies and not having a DH. But the problem with having these discrepancies between the two leagues is almost every, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, every minor league system, a minor league team and league uses the DH. Colleges use a DH. Some pitchers hit. High schools use the DH. Again, there's some pitchers who get to hit because they play other positions. But then they get to Major League Baseball and they got to hit. So there aren't a lot of guys that can hit anymore. Back in the day, there were lots of good hitting pitchers. So deGrom's an athlete. I know a lot of guys like Tom Seaver. When Tom Seaver moved to the American League to pitch for the White Sox, he wasn't a fan of the DH. He liked being able to contribute to the offensive side of the game. So again, and Carlos is mentioning some of these things with the Mets. The Mets will get better. I still think the Mets are going to be a good team. They had delays, cancellations. and again, Drew talks about why the two-way players are so exceptional now and rare, which I know is the context that Drew's using exceptional. I can't name but a few guys: DeGrom, Baumgartner, who's not as good a pitcher anymore, but even when he was a great pitcher, he was a great hitter. And you can help yourself, and you get to stay in games more. So, yeah, Ohtani's probably a bit of a different situation because of the way the Angels use him. But yes, great. I mean, this guy's got tremendous power. He's going to be a better hitter. I'll be honest with you. If I'm the Angels, I find a way to get this guy in the lineup every day and forget about pitching him. But that's just me. McKay is another one Drew brings up. Yeah, before Major League Baseball, right? Somebody brings up something about high school. In high school, they DH for the worst hitter. That's correct. That's true, Kenny. But again, as these guys moved from high school, towards a professional career, theoretically, they hit less and less. So it's amazing that these guys like DeGrom and Baumgartner, and Ohtani's a different situation because he came from Japan, are able to be good hitters when they've gone years, theoretically, without really picking up a bat. So anyway, let's take a quick run through the standings. I want to go through some other stuff. I want to talk about some things that I think are things that will continue and things that will not continue as we look at some of the early returns. The Red Sox starting to fade a little. They're 4-6 over their last 10. They hold a game and a half lead over the Rays now. The Rays are playing a little better baseball, only a game over 500. The East has not played well other than the Red Sox. And again, I have said the Red Sox would come back to earth the whole time. The Blue Jays are struggling along. Everybody's scuffling. The Yankees now have won 3 in a row. Again, Cole is probably the second best pitcher. I just put this up here, and I'm going to move on from DeGrom. But DeGrom did play short in college, so yeah. I mean, these guys do get to play if they're good enough. They get to play. They get to more. I agree. The Red Sox will not make the playoffs. By the way, I've said that again all along during this early start. Had them picked to finish last in the division. Maybe that won't happen. But the Red Sox still have some holes, and they're starting to show now in this last 10 games. Yankees playing better. Only 4-6 over the last 10, but remember there was a 6-game losing streak, I believe, in there. Now they've won 3 in a row. Again, it's against Cleveland. Yankees have got to get healthy right now. We'll stay on the Yankees for a few minutes. Cole's the second best pitcher in baseball, by the way, behind DeGrom. Cole's just amazing. I love to watch these guys pitch because, and I've talked about it before, they pound the strike zone. They're like old school guys. They aren't looking to come out of games. Look at DeGrom with a complete game the other night. Cole goes deep into games. And they don't look to the dugout for somebody to take them out after 90 pitches. Red Sox pitching is finally showing its true colors. I agree, Drew. And as Carlos says, they lack depth in pitching, and they're weak in a couple of places on their starting lineup as well. But back to the Yankees. Cole had one of the good things about the Indians is Bieber's a great pitcher. We know this, right? And great pitching duel yesterday. If you like old school baseball, yesterday was a great game to watch for the Yankees. That game was, I don't know how long the game went. I don't think it was very long. But Cole pitched. He was dominating yesterday. Bieber pitched well. Yankees had a couple of big home runs. They're getting some good. I like the lineup they put out. I mean, if I have to have Torres at shortstop, I like the lineup where I see Odor in the lineup now and again. I wish he could play shortstop. I wish he was a shortstop. He's had some big home runs. His average is still pretty low at $189, but he's got 3 home runs on the year at 8 RBIs, and he's had some big home runs for the Yankees so far. Kenny watched Cole pitch and thought he's outstanding. He is almost every night. I mean, Carlos hasn't said it yet here, but yes, he gives up some home runs. But when you throw strikes and you pound the strike zone like Cole does, and DeGrom, I'm not sure what DeGrom does with home runs, but if you look back through baseball history, the great pitchers, some great pitchers gave up tons of home runs because they were always around the strike zone. They didn't nibble. They threw hard and they challenged hitters. You're going to give up some home runs, but you're not going to walk. If you don't walk guys, that's the other thing about DeGrom. He didn't walk a guy in striking out 15 the other night. Amazing. We're going to talk about another amazing guy in a second, probably as well. But back to the Yankees. Again, the problem is this 3-game winning streak. As long as they get good pitching and home runs, they're going to win. But without that, they're going to struggle. It's unfortunate. Let me listen to something quick here, guys. Again, the problem is this 3-game winning streak is. Sorry, I just want to listen to my audio real quick. I'm going to turn this off so it might be hurting my delay. I did listen to the audio. It does sound better from my side. So, what else we got here? Carlos Odor's has a big stick in picking up the offense. He is in big spots. I like Odor. I like his game. Look at this guy's not too far removed from a couple 30 home run seasons. But remember, my problem with the Yankees is, as I just mentioned, or alluded to a little bit, the Yankees won 3 in a row because they've hit home runs. It's the only way they score runs. You got to be able to win games without hitting all those home runs. We already got that. Sorry. Kenny had something else here, I thought. Kenny, right. I'll give up a homer or two. They don't walk, so they're 1-run home runs. One single. Solo home runs. I couldn't think of the term. Sorry. Time for the Prevagen commercial. Middle relief for the Yankees is not consistent. I agree. The bullpen for the Yankees. Yeah, I do like the Odor a lot, by the way. So, but by the way, going back to Cole, I don't think it's it's very interesting. Higgy has played catcher, I think 3 times this week. Once when Cole pitched. And Sanchez, who's kind of started to revert back to last year's issues again, by the way, guys. He's down to 204, striking out right and left, bad at bats right and left. You're going to see more of Higgy as we go forward. There was talk before the year, last year Cole didn't want to throw to Sanchez, and it was very clear. And then Aaron Boone made a point in the spring training to say it wasn't, Sanchez was going to catch Cole. He caught him opening day. Hasn't caught him since. Make defense look worse for both teams. They do that all the time. They give up. Again, part of my problem goes back to the Torres thing. And look, while we're on the Yankees, before I move off the Yankees, Torres had a couple of good games, got his average up over 200, had some big hits, timely hits, kind of decent situational hitting for him. But again, we had a game where he didn't run out a ground ball. I think playing shortstop and the stress of that position and struggling at that position is hurting his offense. Now it's hurting his attitude. The Yankees got to figure this out. I mean, they don't have any in-house solutions for the shortstop position. It should have been addressed in the offseason, and it was not. So they're either going to have to suffer through and hope Torres can play a credible shortstop and not have it affect the rest of his game. That's as big a deal as anything. And to go to Carlos's point, teams give up defense for home runs all the time because of the way the game is played today. Yeah, Sanchez and Stanton sell. I've been on that bandwagon for a long time, Carlos. And welcome, Carlos, by the way. I'm glad to have you with us again. Carlos and I don't always see eye to eye on some subjects, but we do always see on some. When we move on later to basketball, we'll probably disagree on something. Where was I? Well, I'm lost, guys. Where was I? We break now for Prevagen by Keith Engel. Listen, Tories need the Yankees should have moved on from Sanchez last year. I said this. Sorry, I know where I was now with Carlos' comment. And Stanton. I'd eat Stanton's. I don't care if it's $27 million they owe him till 2029. I don't care. I would move him tomorrow and eat half the contract if I have to. It's the only way they're going to get rid of him because of that contract. And Torres needs a man up. Agreed. Well, again, Drew, as I said, you want to eat enough of the dollars. And these are the New York Yankees we're talking about, right? Not the Milwaukee Brewers. Yankees can eat a big portion of that contract. And there could come a time where they eat it all. Kenny disagrees because it's fun. It's funny, Kenny. I hadn't really noticed that you were contrarian. I kid. Good point. They dumped Ellsbury. They did keep him around, though, for a long time because of the contract, unfortunately. And got nothing out of it. They didn't play him because he couldn't play, according to him. But, again, one of the worst signings. Probably these are the two worst signings that I can remember. And, again, the Yankees have made a lot of bad signings over the years. I go back a long ways. Younger guys, Carlos, I'm not really sure how old you are, but I go back to some horrible signings. Steve Kemp and oh, gosh. I can't even go back. You go back to the 80s, the Yankees made bad signing after bad signing after bad signing. And we're kind of there with Ellsbury and Stanton again. These go down. These go down in history as some of the worst trades in history. So, again, I think we're going to see Higgy catch more. The Yankees are going to have a tough decision with Stanton, or I'm sorry, with Sanchez. He can't. The man, he's not any better. You guys who have stuck up for Stanton all this time, you guys? I heard all last year, 60-game season. It was an aberration because of COVID and blah, blah, blah. This isn't new. He has regressed every year since his first year with the Yankees. Maybe his second year because he came up partway through his first season. But at least in season 2, he's gotten worse every year. There's nobody that can deny that. I don't care. Guys throw out WAR and all this nonsense. I don't want to hear it. I don't think WAR is a stat that I really buy into. I use the eye test, guys. Good point. Officially, again, yes, officially. But let's remember, Drew, that I think he had to sign the contract for the Yankees to trade for him, if I remember right. Hell, I would be happy if, gosh, now I'm forgetting the second baseman they traded. Oh, Castro was here. He came up as a shortstop, and he got moved to second base for a reason, but he's a better shortstop probably right now than Torres. And he's moved on now. I think he's with the Orioles right now. I'd have to look at the rosters, but I'm pretty sure he's with the Orioles. Somebody can point that out to me. Catching is terrible in Major League Baseball. Yeah, and another I'm not sure what the reason for that is because, again, in a lot of cases, they don't give up defense for home runs when it comes to catchers because most of the catchers, I mean, there's a couple good ones like Real Mutu and a handful of guys that are good hitting catchers, but most of them can't hit a lick. That's why I laugh about guys say Higgy can't play because he's not as good. He can't carry the load offensively. Higgy's had some big hits in big spots for the Yankees the last 2 years, and he's a better defensive catcher. He's got 3 home runs already this year, more than Sanchez, and half as many at bats, less than half as many at bats. So, anyway. Let's move on to a different division so I don't dominate the conversation with the Yankees. And I want Kenny to get mad at me. The Central, the Royals keep winning 3 in a row. They've won. They're 12-7, playing well. The White Sox starting to right the ship a bit. They're 11-9. Cleveland's terrible. The Twins, who I picked to win this division, are really scuffling along at 7-12. Still think there's plenty of time to right the ship here. And the Tigers are just terrible at 7-14. The A's we already talked about. The Mariners are very surprising. They're 7-3 in their last 10. I thought they were a year away, but this is a team to be reckoned with. If it's not this year, it's going to be last year, or it's going to be last year. I don't have a time machine. It's going to be this next year. Back catchers first instead of last if they're not good at hitters. I'm not sure what that would accomplish, Carlos, but and as far as the rest of the West, the Astros, 500. They have won 3 in a row. The Angels have, after a decent start, are 3-7 in their last 10. I like the Angels to be a surprise team in the American League. Right now, they're scuffling along. The Rangers are terrible. Again, the National League. We talked already about the Mets. The Phillies 10-10. Nobody's really setting the world on fire in the East here either. Everybody's scuffling right around 500 or a couple games below. The Braves are starting to right the ship a little. And the good thing for the Braves, again, they're my pick. They're my World Series pick to go to the World Series out of the National League. And the good thing for them is nobody's run away here. If they were playing 9-10 and they're somebody gotten off to a fast start, they'd be in a lot of trouble. Back up 1 second, Drew. Sometimes I have to go backwards, guys, because of the delay. And the delay gets longer, by the way, just so you guys know, the more places I share it to. And we're sharing it now live to about 6 different sites. So, yeah, I don't think the Mariners will last either, Drew, but we'll see. So anybody, again, no surprise, the Marlins are probably where they're going to be kind of scruffling along a little bit under 500. The Nationals are not a good team. The Brewers, nice start out of the Brewers, 12-8. Their pitching, their defense has been really, really good. And we talked about Cole, and we talked about DeGrom being the best 2 pitchers in baseball, in my mind anyway. Not too far behind, guys, is Corbin Burns. 40 strikeouts this year. This is in 24 innings pitched, by the way. 40 strikeouts and no walks. That is a tremendous. His ERA is .37. Amazing. His whip, which is total, base runners allowed per 9 innings, is .33. Unbelievable. Not too far behind him is his teammate, Brandon Woodruff. Pitching well. Kind of eternal prospect, Freddie Peralta, is pitching well. Really good pitching for the Brewers. And the bullpens pitch well as well. I mean, the one weak spot has been Devin Williams probably in the bullpen there. But Hader's pitch well. They're using him more like I think a classic closer maybe than they have in the past, which again I don't always agree with. But this team, and this is now, and remember they're missing. If I'm not mistaken, let me check something real quick. I think Yelich is out of the lineup, so they're not lighting it up on the offensive side of the baseball like a lot of teams aren't. I think there's something to the, and they're hitting 209 as a team. Pitching and defense carrying that team. Brewers, smoke and mirrors, all those injuries. I don't know, Drew. I picked them to win this division before. They're struggling along with injuries and a bad offense right now, and they're leading that division, which is not a great division, for sure. The Brewers are the Royals of the NL. Well, I don't know. They got a better manager, I think. So again, my point about the Brewers, great pitching. Burns is amazing. He's probably the least known of the great pitchers in baseball today. Cole gets all the press. DeGrom gets all the press. Bauer gets all the press. Other guys get more press, but Corbin Burns, he's right now as good as DeGrom. but not getting the accolades. So I like them a lot. Moving on. Who else is doing it? The Cubs, again. The rest of the division is around 500 again. The Reds, after a nice start, have really lost. They've lost 6 in a row, 2-8 in their last 10, and that's not surprising. Did not expect them to keep it going. What's Carlos got something to say about the Brewers? Brewers are deep with talent, and they'll put it together. I agree. Had them winning. I have them winning this division. Maybe Roger Gifford will come out of retirement. Where would you like to see him go, Rick? I don't think Roger's coming out of retirement, but I wish he would. He could coach me anytime. For those of you who are not Perthites, Roger Gifford was our high school baseball coach. Tremendous person, tremendous coach. Out west, the Dodgers and Giants are at the top, near the top of the West. The Giants, no big surprise. The Dodgers being 15-6, best record in baseball. Although the A's are starting to close in on them. Scuffle along a bit, 6-4 the last 10, but still they played a lot of games against the Padres. I think that's going to be a great rivalry all year long. The Giants are surprised at 13-8. And the Diamondbacks and the Colorado Rockies, they'll be selling soon. There's some teams, guys, that I can see really starting to unload players early, and the Rockies will be among them for sure. So, what else did I want to talk about? We talked about the A's. We talked about that. Let's talk a little bit about. Find my notes here. Not that one. Not that one. Let me get into. I try to keep my notes on the NF Word file, so it's easier for me to file, and then I can't find it afterwards. So some things that I think will continue in Major League Baseball and some things that won't. So we just touched on them a little bit. But here's a couple of things I think will not continue, or what not to believe your eyes on right now, right? The American League division leaders, the Red Sox, the Royals, and the A's. I think these are things that time will do a correction on, and you will not see those teams leading your divisions. I think of all those teams, maybe the A's will be the one that maybe have the staying power. Go back here. Rockies have underrated team. I don't agree with that. And farm system. That is one of the worst run organizations in baseball. You look at the talent that's come through there that's no longer there. They're just not a good. It's not a well-run organization. I can't agree with that one. That one, Drew. Again, the farm system. Maybe there's players to come along, and maybe that'll be good for the Rockies because they're going to be trading Trevor Story. They may be trading Blackman. There's nobody safe there in that major league roster, and they're not a good team. I feel bad for Bud Black because he's been done wrong there. He's a good major league manager. There you go. Talent's good. The admin is terrible. I don't think the talent at the major league level is all that good, but minor league, I'll give you the. I'm sorry, it was Drew that said that, or it wasn't you that said that. Drew, it was Carlos. Sorry about that, Drew. Carlos, I will disagree with you, which is not unusual. There you go. Drew's on my page. They're bad up and down. I mean, look at their organization, as Carlos said, they're just atrocious. Not well run. Not good at all. All right, look, let's move forward here to what I was talking about here is the things that will continue. Things I don't believe. I don't believe the division winners or leaders right now will be anywhere near the top, except maybe the A's. This is the American League we're talking about. Same thing with the last place teams in the American League. I don't believe that. Well, that was when the Yankees were in last place. I believe the last place team in the American League will struggle now. The American League East will be the Warriors. The Orioles. It'll be the Orioles and the Red Sox fighting out for the basement there. The Twins will not stay in the basement in the Central. And I don't believe the Angels will stay in last place. and the West. The Angels are my surprise team there. So I think that will change. Some of the guys hitting under the Mendoza line, for lack of a better term, are not going to stay there. As bad as Stanton is, and his approach is at the plate, he's not going to hit under 200. Michael Conforto's not going to hit under 200. Charlie Blackmon, Eugenie Suarez, and I'll talk. There's a bunch of them. Perea, Albies, Hicks, Chapman, Swanson, Lowe, Yastrzemski. I love saying that name. How did Carl Yastrzemski not be a Yankee back in the day before the draft? How can a great player like that come out of Long Island that doesn't play for the Yankees? I'm shocked. Simeon, Gurriel Jr., all hitting under 200. I think it's the weather. I think it's the disruption in the schedule that we talked about in some cases. Let's see what Kenny said here. Any team over 500 will make the playoffs? Let's take a look at that quick, Kenny. Let's see how I agree with you. Red Sox over 500, not making the playoffs. Rays, maybe. Royals, doubtful. White Sox, yes. A's, they got a shot. Mariners, I do not think will make the playoffs. Who else is over 500? The Brewers, yes. The Dodgers, for sure. The Giants, I don't think so. Again, the Giants' biggest handicap in my mind is their manager. That guy's out to lunch, Gabe Kapler. And he'll wear out his welcome there like he did with the Phillies. He's just too, and again, I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I mean, he's been in baseball a long time, but some of his ideas are just a little too radical, and the players don't go for them. So, and back to the hitters, the weather, the disruption in the schedule. Home runs are down. I think they have taken the rabbit out of the baseball. I think they've made some drastic changes, and the hitters don't like it. I don't care. I want to see the game go back to what it was. I don't need home runs, walks, and strikeouts. That's not the way the game is meant to be played. Situational hitting the ball where people aren't. And if they did change the baseball in some way, then so what? Change your approach. Don't be trying to hit the ball into shifts and over shifts. Robert Butler mentioned the change in schedule for baseball allowed dual sport athletes to play. Russell Wilson, well, I'm not sure how. I didn't see that part. I'll watch that later. I know Robert was on with Mac and Jack earlier. That's what Carlos is mentioning. I'm not sure how the schedules change that would allow for this to happen for these football players who are really good baseball players like Russell Wilson and Kyle Murray, that it would help them play both sports. There hasn't been a two-sport star since Bo Jackson, I believe, and Deion Sanders in a similar time frame. And it didn't really work out for either of them. So we'll see. I got to look into that, though. I'll watch the interview and see what Robert was talking about. So other things I don't think will continue. I don't think your man Mercedes' magical month will continue. He's hitting around 390 with 4 homers and 12 RBIs. He's got a great personality. People have compared his sense of humor to Bartolo Colon-like, and by all reports, he's a great teammate. And I will talk to Robert about that, and we'll get some more information about that. That overlap into the fall is no bueno. Well, that's not true. The World Series goes into November. So not sure where Robert's come from there, but I'll get more information, Carlos, and we'll talk more about it. Don't let me forget that. Anyway, Mercedes has been a great April story, but I just don't see him continuing that hot streak with the Royals, or with the White Sox. Now, it's possible. There's always guys that come out of nowhere. every year. We'll see if he has some staying power. Luis Castillo, I don't think will continue his bumpy start for the Reds. I think Castillo is one of the better pitchers in baseball. He's got an ERA over 6 right now, but I don't see that continuing. I mean, the Yankees were all over this guy this winter and even into the spring, trying to find a way to get him aboard. Don't see it. I mean, he could be that, if the Reds slide further and they give up on the season, they could start making some trades. I would love to see the Yankees find a way to bring in Luis Castillo during this before the trade deadline, let's say. Pitching's still going to be a problem for the Yankees throughout the year, even with Luis Severino's schedule to come back near midseason. So I don't think the Luis Castillo bumpy beginning will continue. Some things I do think will continue. I think Jacob deGrom's generational pitching will continue. This guy is lights out and has been for 2 years. I believe he's won back-to-back Cy Youngs. Speak up, Carlos, or Drew. You're my resident Met guys, I think. How many 90-game winners this year? I'll jump on that in a second, Kenny. Excuse me. I think deGrom's won back-to-back Cy Youngs. I can see him winning again this year. I can see him winning for the foreseeable future if he doesn't get hurt and the team gives him any kind of support. He can't get worse support than he got the last couple of years. Tremendous pitcher. I see that continuing. I don't see the Dodgers' dominance stopping anytime soon. The defending champions have got the best record in baseball, and they are just loaded. They got 3 legitimate Cy Young candidates on this team, in Kershaw, Bauer, and Buehler. I love Walker Buehler, by the way. Love him. And they got 3 MVP candidates in Betts and Bellinger and Seager. And they're deep. They're deep. They can withstand injuries. They can withstand some slumps. Scouting reports have his pitching speed and accuracy getting better the last 3 years, talking about deGrom. And he is back-to-back in 18. Oh, 18 and 19, right? Not last year. Sorry, my bad. I could see him winning 2 or 3 more. Let's go to Kenny's question real quick before I go to my next what to believe. Kenny wants to know how many 90-game winners. I'm going to go through here quickly, and I'll tell you what I think. I guess this could be a revision maybe from our what Drew and I talked about a couple of weeks ago, but I see the Blue Jays winning 90 games. There's 1. The Yankees winning in 90 games. That's 2. The White Sox, 3. The Twins, 4. The West could have nobody, to be honest with you right now. I see the Mets and the Braves. That's 6. I see the Brewers, 7. Dodgers and Padres. I see 9 90-game winners. That's what I see. Got a few more comments about deGrom here. Mets should trade him or he should sit out. That might be a little rash. 2 to 3 is possible. Enjoy what he is for now, for sure. If you're a Mets fan, enjoy. I've said this I've said this a few times on different shows. Enjoy what you're seeing right now with deGrom, because you don't see guys like this come along every day. Same with the Yankees and Cole. Got to enjoy it while it's here. A couple other things that I think will continue. The Braves' strength on pitching and defense, or the Brewers' strength on pitching and defense will continue. That staff is solid. I already talked about Woodruff and Burns and Peralta, who've been dominant. And they got Hauser and Anderson, who are solid back end of rotation guys. And their defense has been really well. Their bullpen's really, really good too. Williams has been struggling a bit, but he'll get it together, I think. And you've got Hader also at the back end of that bullpen. And their defense up the middle is really good with Wong, Urias at shortstop, and Bradley or Kane in center field. Really good defensive players. Not quite. Not sure what that one's about. Most players want to win. Mets don't. Well, I don't agree with that. I would have agreed with that possibly before this year. Steve Cohen has got a lot of money. He's got more money than the Steinbrenners. He's got more money than probably any owner in baseball right now. And I don't think he bought this team not to win. I think he will do what needs to be done for this team to win. Now, that doesn't always work out to winning, as we saw with George Steinbrenner would do anything to win. There's Robert. Oh, it is Robert saying LOA. I'm not sure what Robert's referring to, but I'd love to know what Robert's referring to. Yeah, and Robert, Carlos had talked about. If you want to make a comment, I'll back up to this. Robert Carlos was mentioning that you said that there'd be a chance for players to play both in the NFL and I believe the NFL and Major League Baseball due to scheduling changes. I don't see really any changes in the schedule that really allow for that. Not to say it can't happen because it's happened in the past, but there's going to be problems, because you can't play an entire season if your team's any good. It goes to the playoffs, especially. Let me continue with a couple things I still think will happen. Ronald Acuna Jr. is probably the best young hitter in baseball, and he's heading towards a 40-40 season this year, I think. And I think it's possible he'll be the first guy ever to get to 50-50. Be tremendous. The problem with these young guys, I'll go back to this for a second. The problem with young guys is as they develop as hitters and power hitters, they tend to stop running as much. So we'll see. If he's going to be a 50-50 guy, it's going to have to be in the next couple of years or he'll slow down, I think. I think Vlad Guerrero's improvement with the Blue Jays is real. And I think the Mets' defensive struggles will continue. I think the Mets, similar to the Yankees, as we talked about, will hurt them in the long run. They've got a lot of guys playing out of position. You got a guy at second base who's probably not playing his best position. You got a guy at third base who's definitely not playing his best position. You got a first baseman who is at his position, but not the best defensive player in the world. You've got a left fielder a lot of times who's not a left fielder. And you got a center fielder who's not good defensively. These defensive deficiencies will hurt the team eventually. Let's see what Carlos has got here. Rojas, not a bad coach. He'll do better later this season. I think we're talking about Rojas for the Mets. Acuna needs to stay healthy. Agreed. I mean, again, any of these young guys or any players to reach their full potential have got to stay healthy. And he needs to build on strength. Yeah. Again, I think it's possible, too. When we talk about staying healthy, teams sometimes start to dissuade guys from running as far as stealing bases because they want to keep them healthy. So, that's my kind of look around baseball right now. Let me look real quick, see if anything's popped up since we started chatting. Excuse me. Since we started chatting, if you guys have any topics you want to cover on baseball I haven't touched on, now's the time. Not much I see here. Anything I haven't seen already. There's a story in the Post today about Doc Gooden enjoying DeGrom's success. That's an interesting story. We might get into that when we talk about football. Nothing else, guys? I'm going to move on to the NBA. I think I just cut that. I didn't have my computer plugged in. We almost lost power. We're going to move on to the NBA. I got to tell you guys, it's been an exciting couple weeks as a Knicks fan. Talked about this a little bit on my Thursday update on Zodiac TV, and I want to once again, since I'm chatting about it here, I want to welcome the Zodiac TV viewers. A lot of great stuff going on with Zodiac. They're going live on a bunch of major streaming services on April 30th. Northeast Streaming Sports is going to be part of that. Some of our personalities will be part of the kickoff show. So hope you guys. I'll let you guys know more about that as we get closer to it next week. We're getting closer to it now. We're less than a week away from it. Get solar. I should get solar. I'm not that green, Kenny. Unfortunately, my carbon footprint is as big as Al Gore's, which is kind of ironic when you think about it. But we don't talk politics here. The Knicks, 9 straight wins. Knicks are fun, man. Defense has been, they play hard every night. Now Carlos and I know we're going to go battle a little bit here when it comes to the Knicks. The Knicks have been fabulous. 9 in a row. 4th place in the East. All alone. Still only a 2-game lead over that 7th place spot, though, so they got to be careful. 3 games behind the Bucks for 3rd. Probably not going to make it. They only got 11 games left. And here's the rub, guys, when it comes to the Knicks. We get to their schedule. Right now, they won against the Raptors yesterday. Didn't play great, but they did pull out a much-needed win because that was at home. They can't lose these games at home. They got Phoenix tomorrow night. One of the big surprises in the league, but they got them at home. And yes, Drew, we talked. I'll jump on that in a second. Carlos's Knicks. Oh, gosh. Anyway, let me look at the schedule here. We got 2 home games, Monday, Wednesday against Phoenix and Chicago after a home game yesterday against the Raptors. I talked about this with Mac and Jack Friday. These games are a must. Then they go to Houston, and that game might be a must because after that, we're going to head west. But I got Memphis in there as well. But starting on the 5th, they go out west to play Denver, to play Phoenix, to play the Clippers, to play the Lakers. That's going to be a tough run. Tough run. I still think the Knicks are going to be able to clinch this 4th spot. And if it's a 5th spot, not such a big deal. 6 is a must. You cannot get in that play-in game. You have got to at least finish in that 6th spot. I still think the Knicks will clinch the 4th or 5th spot and play either the Celtics or the Hawks in the first round. Definitely a chance to win there. And if they could get the 4th spot and match up, well, I guess if they win that 4-5 matchup, they would theoretically play the Bucks in the 2nd round, which I think they can win that series. This team, before I move on to some of the other comments here, and I'll get to them about the Nets and whatnot, I'm not ignoring you. This team, Julius Randle has got to have put himself in the MVP conversation, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And Thibodeau's put himself if he wasn't already, in the Coach of the Year candidacy. And I know Carlos doesn't like Tibbs. He wants him fired whatever, week 1. I don't know why. This guy has changed the culture of this team, has them playing hard. He's got guys like Julius Randle who have changed, not on their own, with prodding from Coach Thibodeau after he was hired last summer and the way he approached his offseason and the way he approached the whole game entirely. Julius Randle has transformed his game to being one of the elite players in the game. Let's look at some of Carlos's comments here. He needs to give time. You look at, I don't know that that's actually true. Carlos talks a lot about the fact that Tibbs doesn't use his bench enough. And again, I'm going to disagree because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys. 10 guys playing 20 minutes or more a game. That's a lot. That's a deep rotation. Now, that rotation may get shorter come playoff time, but that's what happens. And by the way, you've also got quickly just a notch below 20 minutes a game. That's a deep rotation, Carlos. And Kenny Knox doesn't need to be part of that rotation. Where's he going to play? Whose minutes do you want to give to him? Bullock? Bullock's a spark plug on this team. Rose's veteran leadership has been huge to the impact on this winning streak and the Knicks' rise. Let's go back and look up now maybe Peyton, but Knox can't play point guard. I guess you could play, maybe Burks or I don't know. I guess you could play Burks or Quickly at the point when Knox is in the game. But again, whose minutes are you going to give him? Mark Miller laid a great Mike Miller. So this is all Mike Miller's doing? Come on. Carlos, look at Mike Miller's record last year. With basically the same cast, except for a few guys. They brought in Burke. Well, no, there's been some major additions. I shouldn't say that. That wouldn't be fair. Leon Rose and Thibodeau are responsible for this. Mike Miller, who coached half the season last year and didn't do very good. I know you're a Knicks fan. You don't want them to do badly. I don't know what your problem is. He's the Ted Lasso basketball. If you guys haven't watched Ted Lasso, it's an original programming on Apple TV. It's very funny. I can't think of the actor who's in it, but it's a very, very funny show. Oh my gosh. I know I got to catch up here. I don't want coach. I want a championship too. I'm not concerned about coach of the year. I'm not. I'm just making quick statements. I think Quinn Snyder's the coach of the year, by the way. Jazz has slipped a little bit recently, but I think Quinn Snyder's the coach of the year out in Utah. But Tibbs has got to be in the conversation, and Julius Randle has to be in the conversation for before. I'm sorry, he's got to be in the conversation for the MVP, which I'll touch on a little bit too. I'm just trying to catch up on some of your comments here. Knox more playing time. They'll win 6-7 games. I'm not sure what that one's about. We talked about that. Rooted for the Knicks in the 70s when Tom Sheppy was a Lakers fan. More purse conversation. Thibodeau, Drew, yeah. Mike Miller, no. Told you I would. Knicks are better cause of injuries. Oh my God, I'm not sure I understand. You told me what would happen, Carlos. This isn't new. These guys were playing these minutes all along. Not all the guys, Kenny Knox has been given a couple chances through the course of the season and has not produced. Why are you giving him? I'm giving Randle. Every team gives their best player the most minutes. Knicks are battling for important playoff position here, and Randle's playing important minutes. Now, I will agree that there have been times in blowouts both ways where Randle and Barrett could have sat a little bit. Barrett and Randle have been at the top of the heat for minutes played most of the year. But these are young guys, and they get paid to play. Can you find spots to give him a breather? Yes. But don't tell me he doesn't play, guys, when you get 11 guys, basically, averaging 20 points a game. Knicks' last championship was definitely when Earl the Pearl played. He teamed with Walt Frazier in that backcourt when they won their second a world championship in a few years, back in 1973. So we're coming up on 50 years of no Knicks championships in the next couple of years. So hopefully, Julius Randle's played some of the best basketball he's played all year the last couple of weeks, save for a game here or there. All right. Let's not just talk about the Knicks. Let's talk about the rest of the Eastern Conference. The Nets continue to play well. Kenny Gifford. I don't know if I can find your comment now. There it is. Nets, world champion. Possible. The problem with the Nets, and I know I've talked about this a lot recently. The problem with the Nets is their big three has not played together but a couple of games all year. Durant's hurt. Ben hurt again. Harden's hurt. I think Durant's going to come back today and play. But they've only got, let's see, what do they got? They got 12 games left. They need to find a way to get Harden and Irving and Durant in the lineup at the same time. You can't just get to the playoffs and start playing these big three together and expect them to have any kind of chemistry. I'm not sure that, if they can play 8 or 9 games, it'll be enough time, but it'll be better than playing none. And I'm not sure it's going to happen. But still, they're in first place in the East. Best record, or the West, I'm sorry. They're in first place in the East. And the Eastern Conference. Philadelphia's right on their tail. Philadelphia's lost 4 in a row. I'm not sure what's going on there. I talked about this on the Mac and Jack show. Joel Embiid has got to stay healthy more. He's a great player. But we had a conversation about whether I'd rather have Randle or Embiid. And as we're talking about teams, Embiid is probably more talented than Randle, but he can't stay on the court. And I think Randle does more things well than Embiid. And as far as teams, players that are more valuable to their teams, at least, Randle's more valuable to the Knicks than Embiid is to the Sixers. Sixers find ways to win without Embiid. Embiid, not recently, but they do. Let's see what we got here. I get back to we saw that. And none in the next 50. We talked about that. Load management, right? Not a big fan of load management play. Kyrie's a problem. We've talked about him. Kyrie, again, with the Nets, back to the Nets, I still think if they put it all together, they are contenders to win the championship. For sure. The East has got some legitimate candidates to win a world championship this year. The Nets being one of them. Nets have got to get it together, though. They've got to get these guys together to play. And Irving's got to decide to play and not take a week off during the playoffs. How do I know that he's not going to do that? If I'm a teammate, can I trust Kyrie Irving? Durant will always get a pass. Well, Durant's a great player, and he's been hurt. I'm not sure where we're giving a pass. Drew brings up a great point, and I've talked about this several times, and I got into a huge debate with Mac and Jack on their show a couple of weeks ago that I said Steve Nash gets an unfair shake. Was he hired to be a player's coach and the coaches or the players were going to coach and he was just there? Probably. Durant and Irving said this is the guy we want, blah, blah, blah. You can't you can't dismiss what Steve Nash has done this year and navigated the things he's navigated with the injuries, with the Kyrie Irving, putting himself in timeout several times during the course of the year, with Harden trade and integrating him into that team, some COVID situations with Durant and others. Steve Nash has done a tremendous job as the coach of the Nets. And I'm not talking about X's and O's. I don't know if he knows a thing about X's and O's. I would assume he does, as one of the greatest point guards in the history of basketball. But I agree. Steve Nash needs to get some kudos here. I believe they only need Durant and the bearded wonder. Well, we need to get them playing together too. Most point guards are going to coach well. I don't disagree. It's not even about X's and O's though, Drew. And again, coaching and managing. Whether we're talking about the NBA, certainly the NBA, and certainly Major League Baseball, maybe NFL to a little lesser extent, but it still comes into play. Managing people and personalities is very important. X's and O's, you get great players who come together and can play well together, then you're going to win. Strategy comes into play, yes. But more importantly, you need to manage those people. I remember Casey Stengel one time, and some of you may not remember this, some may, but he was asked one time about the importance of managing. What was the most important thing about managing his roster? Was it gameplay? Was it personalities? He said the most important thing is your players, because on every team there's going to be, and this is baseball obviously, there's going to be 5 guys who love you, there's going to be 5 guys who hate you, and the important thing about managing is keeping those 5 guys that hate you away from the other 20 guys. I'm sorry, 15 guys, whatever it is. I'm mixing up the math. Sorry, math's not my strong suit. 15 guys who, you got to keep the guys who hate you away from those 15 guys. So managing personalities is huge. Point guards and catchers in baseball. Yep, great managers. Great players, though. Very interesting point you guys bring up. Great players in all sports, and again, there's a few that are the exception. And I think it's changed a bit in more recent history. But great players don't tend to be the best coaches or managers. Guys who are role players on a team tend to be better coaches and managers. Now, again, there's some exceptions. I'm sure you'll throw some out here. But feel free. It's a good topic. What great players did become great coaches or managers in the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball? Great topic. For the most part, it's not guys that were great players. Joe Torre might be the best player that became a great manager in history. Tony La Russa, great manager, not much of a player. Casey Stengel wasn't a great player. Any player or person who sees the game unfold will lead you to wins. Yeah, that's a good point. And again, you know what? Guys who sat on the bench see that. Guys who sat on the bench and watched the game unfold became the best managers. They watched how their managers managed in certain situations and took away the good stuff and the bad stuff from different guys. I mean, think about it. Think of some of the best managers in the history of baseball. I'm thinking in recent time, semi-recent times. Dick Williams, not a great player. Sparky Anderson, not a great player. You guys got any examples? I still think, great topic. Maybe we'll have a whole segment on this at some point. Maybe we'll jump back to it. Save it. Think about it, guys. Let's talk about it when we get through everything else we're chatting about. Think about that topic before we end the show. Great players. I'm going to come back to that, Kenny, okay? Bring it up again when I go back. I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to give everybody a chance to think about it. Great players who became great managers. Kenny's is a good one. But not Hall of Fame great. Let me finish up my NBA stuff here before we go on to that. Maybe I'll do it before we go to the NFL quick. The rest of the stand. So, again, the importance for the Knicks is to get in that 4, 5, 6 spot. 4 or 5 would be awesome. 4, remember, you get home court advantage. And while there's only a small percentage of people allowed into the Garden, it's been the difference between it being empty and the few people that are there has been. You can hear it on TV, the electricity. You can feel it. Sorry, you can't hear electricity, obviously. You can feel the electricity that's coming from that building with the way this team is playing. Out west, the Jazz have stumbled a little bit recently, but they're still 6-4 in their last 10. They're leading the West by 2 games over the very surprising Phoenix Suns. Monty Williams, again, we're talking about Coach of the Year candidates. To me, the top 3 are Thibodeau, Williams, and Quinn Snyder from the Jazz. The Clippers have played really well lately, going 9-1 in their last 10 and winning 4 in a row to move within just a game. Well, actually, it's a 2 game because they're behind in the loss column 3 games, but they're 1 win away from the top spot in the West. The Nuggets, they're 7-3 in their last 10, but they haven't taken off like I thought they would after the. Yeah, good point, Drew. You brought this up before. I'll zip back to that in a second. The Lakers continue to slide. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They've had Davis back for a couple of games, and they've still lost 3 in a row. They need LeBron back. I don't care what you guys think of LeBron. LeBron's a great player. LeBron is a difference maker in every series he plays in. LeBron's done some great things on the court. And the reason people don't like LeBron are obvious, but not things that I care to get into. Rick's got another good one for play. We'll talk about all these guys. I'm going to write them down here, so in case I forget them, in case I can't go back. You 2 guys that have brought up great players. Make sure when we go back to that topic, we cover those guys. The Mavericks have moved into the 6th spot. They're playing better basketball. They won 3 in a row. But better teams. Drew brings up the point that 3 teams below 500 in the East will be play-ins, none in the West. It's possible that there could be 1 in the West, but it's likely. I would think it's pretty likely that all of the teams in the West, all 10 teams, well, obviously the top teams will be, but the teams near the bottom will all be over 500. And as Drew said, there's going to be at least 1 team, if not 3 teams, as Drew brings up, below 500 playing in the playing games. You still got, there's still time for the Hornets to get over 500, and the Pacers get over 500, but very doubtful that the Wizards are going to get there, who are in the 10th spot right now, battling. I think the Bulls will get that 10th spot myself, but that's just me. A couple other things I want to chat about. So that's the playoff race. It's very important to stay out of that play-in game for any of these teams. But I will tell you, Drew, based on the top of the East is better this year than it's been in the last few compared to the top of the West. The bottom is never going to be that good. There are teams at the bottom of the West that, or the middle of the West that could probably compete in the playoffs with most of the teams in a series. All right, so the one last thing is we talked about the MVP race, and I said that Randall's got to be in it. To me, probably Jokic from Denver is probably the leading candidate right now. Joel Embiid would probably be second, but Randall and Steph Curry. Steph Curry, again, problem is he's not playing on that good a team that will make the playoffs. Good morning, Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Good to see you guys join us this morning. Great show you guys did this morning with I saw the Robert Butler segment, except for the part Carlos was talking about. Guys, check out Mac and Jack on Northeast Streaming Sports. Great show. If you're not a friend of this show, become one. Great stuff they do. Every Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. Right on here on Northeast Streaming Sports and Zodiac TV. So back to Steph Curry. I think he's brought himself into the MVP conversation because he's carrying the Warriors on his back. As you know or don't know, he just had a streak of I think 11 games in a row with 30 points broken this week, and he's been playing some of his best basketball. He's been a bit up and down till recently, but he's starting to get it really going. The Warriors are 7-3 in their last 10, so their rise has coincided with him carrying that team. So anyway, that's that. Let's do this. Actually, let's talk about the NFL quick. And then we're going to go back to that conversation about the best players who became really good coaches. The Chiefs. Let's talk about football. Probably the biggest news of the week was the Chiefs trade with Baltimore for Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown is a very, very good offensive tackle. The Chiefs had some problems on the offensive line. They did sign Joe Thuney in the offseason away from the Patriots, but they still had some holes. And they made a big trade, trading 3 draft picks in this year's draft. A first rounder, which is the 31st pick overall, a third rounder, and a fourth rounder, as well as a 5th round selection next year. And they get the Chiefs got Brown, as we said, who will be the starting left tackle, and he's a very good one. And they'll also get Baltimore's 2nd round pick this year and a 6th round pick next year. I think it's a great trade for Kansas City. Again, this is a team that is going to be competing for the next several years for Super Bowls. And you saw what happened. We'll talk about that in a second, Carlos. You saw what happened in the Super Bowl. You can't have the best quarterback in football running around for his life from the minute he gets the snap. So this is a great trade for the Chiefs. I think Orlando Brown is better than any offensive lineman they could have picked in the draft where they'd be drafting, unless they'd be able to trade up. And now, to be honest with you, Baltimore is in a position to be able to trade up and do some interesting things. And I want to talk a little bit about an article I read recently about some very interesting strategy that the Ravens are considering possibly this year. So again, that's the big news of the day. And let's talk a little bit about that draft. A lot of news this week about, obviously the quarterbacks are the big thing. Trevor Lawrence is obviously the best pick in the draft. Going to be the top draft pick in the draft. Not a question about whether it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And the quarterbacks behind him, to me, are a bit shaky. I do see Wilson going second. Carlos does not want that. Carlos wants Wilson. And I'm guessing he wants to have the Jets trade their draft, basically, because you're not getting him for the second pick. You're not getting Russell Wilson for the second pick in the draft. You're giving up more than that. Are you willing to do that? Blindside, very important. Agreed, Kenny. That's why these tackle positions are so important. Carlos wants to sell the pick. What else do you want to trade, though, Carlos, to get Russell Wilson? Because you're not getting him just for the second pick. You want to trade your draft for Russell Wilson? And I don't think you do. But right now you're looking at, again, this is just me. I'm looking at the first 7 picks in the draft. I've got Wilson going second. Unfortunately for the 49er fans, I'm sold that now they think Mac Jones is the guy. I don't know why. Not a big fan. Justin Fields, he's either sliding or climbing. I don't know. It depends on what mock draft you look at. But kind of the consensus has him going to Atlanta at 4. And then you've got, oh gosh, I can't read what I wrote down. Oh, Lamar Chase to the Bengals at 5. Pitts, the tight end from Florida, to Dolphins at 7. 6. And Sewell, the offensive tackle, to Detroit at 7. Now, I'll tell you what, Pitts, you can talk about the quarterbacks all you want. I think the guy who will have the most impact this year on a team and their playoff chances is probably going to be Pitts. Wherever he goes, if he goes to a team that has playoff aspirations, like the Dolphins, he's going to have the most impact on a team's playoff situation this year of anybody in this draft. You think he's a shoo-in to be drafted number 1 or shoo-in to be good, Kenny? I think you say he's not. I think Trevor Lawrence is the only sure thing in this draft. And the problem with sure things when it comes to quarterbacks, if they end up in bad situations, changes everything. So, again, nobody's a sure thing if you're going to look at it that way, right? Lots of talk about the Patriots this week, actually, when it comes to the draft. I've heard everything from them trading up to get Justin Fields or Trey Lance, and I've also had them. I've also seen reports that Belichick. He is really excited about Kyle Trask from Florida and possibly a 2nd or 3rd round selection because Trask isn't going to go in these top picks. And that you may see some of these guys actually, because of the weak draft next year for quarterbacks, you may see some of these guys. You may see a 6th guy. I'm sorry, 7th guy. Is it 7? I'm trying to think of the quarterbacks we already got. We got Fields, we got Lawrence, we got Mac Jones, we got Trey Lance, and who am I missing? With Zach Wilson, 5. You may see a 6th guy go in the 1st round just because of how weak it is next year. You could see a Trask jump up or a Kellen Mound go late in the 1st round. I don't see it. I think those are guys that Bill Belichick would like to see fall into the 2nd or 3rd round so that he can get a quarterback and not have to trade up to get him. We got some take over the contract, blindside very important. We got sell the pick. Sorry, just trying to catch up. Take over the contract again. You're not getting it for a 2nd round pick. It's just not going to happen. I think everyone thinks Lawrence is shoo-in. You're not sold. I'll be good. Yeah. And Ryan Leaf brings back memories for everybody. And again, nothing's a sure thing. But remember who else went just before him turned out to be a pretty good quarterback in Peyton Manning. So he was the number 1 guy in that draft. Zach Wilson's drafted by the Jets, won't win a Super Bowl. Lose season for next year's guaranteed. Look, I'm not sold on Zach Wilson. My thought was they should have kept Sam Darnold. They should have kept Sam Darnold and drafted weapons to go with him. Devonte Smith is a guy who's fallen in this draft. The Jets could have traded backwards and gotten lots of assets to draft. Lots of people. They need cornerback. They need offensive line. They need an edge rusher. And they need wide receivers. He won with a team loaded with talent and defense that sent front line to the NFL. Agreed. See, this isn't a weak draft, though. I think this is a good draft this year. Really good draft. I think it's deep. We're going to talk a little bit here quickly about the top draft picks or the top prospects in a couple of positions, at least quarterback, at least the skill positions we're going to look at today. But I think this is a really good draft. Next year, not so much, guys. Talked about that. What do we got? I'm down for Rodgers or Russell to be the next Jets quarterback. But again, Carlos, what are you trading? What are you trading? You might get Rodgers for the 2nd pick. Green Bay's not trading Rodgers. Not sure where Kenny's absolutely is. Watch out for Carolina. I love Carolina. You guys have heard me talk about Carolina and Matt Rule for a long time, at least since he got the job. and Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator. I think they are on their way to doing great things in Carolina. And I think Sam Darnold's going to be pretty good. Although they threw him a little loop, they had talked about the fact they were going to pick up his option. It was pretty much guaranteed. But now they've kind of thrown a wrench into that. And I don't know. Maybe Carolina takes a quarterback. I'm not sure. Money. You can't just buy players, Carlos. Anyway, let's take a quick look. Here's my picks for the top. I'm going to go top. I don't know, 5 or 6 guys. Maybe we'll see how we go. 5 or 6 guys, between 5 and 10 guys at each of these positions. Quarterback. Trevor Lawrence is the number 1 guy in my mind. I don't have Zach Wilson or Justin Fields number 2. I have Trey Lance. If we're talking long term, again, it depends on a team's needs. If you need a quarterback today, Trey Lance probably isn't your guy. But overall, I'm going to say Trey Lance is number 2. And I'm going to say Fields is 3, but with some downside, injury issues. Not a lot of time he played in quarterback. And throwing a pick or 2. Carlos is all over getting that quarterback. It's a quarterback league, and they need people around them. Look at the past couple of years. Well, it's a great point. You got to have a quarterback to win. Very few teams have won without a really good quarterback. There's been a few. Baltimore won with Trent Dilfer. Tampa Bay won with Johnson, Brad Johnson. So there's been a few, but as a rule, no. So I got Fields 3rd. I've got Wilson 4th. I've actually don't have Mac Jones. Got Kyle Trask at 5, Kellen Mond at 7, Davis Mills from Stanford at 8, Ian Book at 9, and then Sam Ehlinger from Texas at 10. Those are my top quarterback picks. You guys can talk a little bit amongst yourselves about that before I move on if you want. We'll see what else is being talked about here. It's quarterback league. Same comments we just had. Sorry. So again, that's kind of where I stand with the quarterbacks. That's a pretty deep, I think, that's a pretty deep pool of players compared to especially what's going to come out next year. Let's look at wide receivers, and we're going to have tight ends thrown in there as well. My number one guy, Devonte Smith. The only thing going against this guy is his size. And I don't get the arguments. I mean, Jamar Chase, most of the people who downplay Smith say is a better player because of his size. He's only 6 foot. He's a great player. Now he's got 30 pounds on Smith, but Smith will put on weight. I think he's a generational player, and he needs to get picked. I put Pitts at 3rd here, by the way. If I'm a team that needs a receiver, so I'm putting kind of tight ends and wide receivers together here in this section, I'm going to take Pitts as my 3rd prospect. I'm going to take Waddle as my 4th from Alabama. Probably Tony from Florida would come after him at 5. Elijah Moore from Ole Miss, 6. And then maybe Bateman from Minnesota. But then it's kind of a toss-up. Once you get into Bateman and Rondale Moore, these guys are all kind of interchangeable for me. Amari Rodgers you can put up there. I think you can take them in any way, shape, or form, any order. But I think it's pretty deep. You know, I'm looking into the teams, and you still got guys like Tylan Wallace from Oklahoma State. And, these are guys that are – this is a deep, deep draft for wide receivers. Any other comments going on here? Nope. Waddle as number 1. That's your number 1, Kenny? Good player. Got him in my top 4. I don't really like the tight end class except Pitts, to be honest with you. There's a couple good guys, but one of the reasons that that I like I lost my thing here. One of the reasons I like Pitts so much is there's nobody else. He's really good. Tight ends who play the game the way Kyle Pitts plays, or Rob Gronkowski plays, or going back many years, Kellen Winslow plays. They can block and they can give you a weapon offensively. Are not easy to find. If Wild didn't get hurt, who's that other guy? Well, Devonte Smith. He won the Heisman Trophy. That's the other guy. He's the guy I got at number one. Generational player, Devonte Smith. Look at what he did in the championship game in a half of football. I agree. I can't think of his name right now, Kenny. You can throw it out there, but I can't think of the tight end from Notre Dame. He is pretty good. There's some other guys, I think, but Pitts, to me, there's nobody. All these other conversations, there's a bunch of guys that you can kind of group together. In the tight end, I think Pitts stands head and shoulders above everybody else. Jets steal Pitts in number two. Jets steal Pitts in number 2 pick and trade to Seattle for Wilson. I'm glad you put the LOL in there because they're not trading him for Kyle Pitts. Oh, God, Carlos, thank you for making me laugh. So anyway, let's move on to some running backs here. Time we got. We're moving on pretty good. My running back rankings. Now, running backs used to be really highly drafted, right? It doesn't happen anymore. I know Saquon Barkley went early, the year he came out. I'm trying to think of other guys that were really in the top 5. I'm sure there's some that are not coming to mind. It could have been as soon as last year for all I know, but they're not popping into my head. Used to be, excuse me, it used to be that running backs were always in the top few. Not anymore. You may not see a guy go to near the end of the first round this year. And again, the best guy in my mind is an Alabama guy in Najee Harris. Really good. We're going back if you're talking about Ricky Williams. I'm not sure if that's where we are here. That's unreal. What's that, Anthony? What's unreal? Help me out. Oh, you're talking about... I'm guessing you're talking about Carlos's prediction of picking Pitts and trading him. He did have an LOL after it, in all fairness to Carlos. So anyway, I think Harris is probably the number one running back, and he's not likely to go till the end of the first round. I think an underrated guy is Anthony. I'll say his name wrong, from Clemson. I think he's the second best guy. Again, he may not go until the second round. Javonte Williams from North Carolina is a great player. Michael Carter from North Carolina. Probably going to be, those two guys are going to be in the top 5 or 6 running backs to go, I would think. Really, both of them are very good. You got Trey Sermon from Ohio State, and then to me it just becomes a jumbled bunch of guys, from Jameer Jefferson at Oregon State, and Herbert from Virginia Tech, and Roundtree from Missouri, Hubbard from Oklahoma State. These guys are all interchangeable, and they go anywhere from second to fourth round in my mind. Most underrated running back is from Buffalo. Yeah, he's small. He's not going to go I don't know where he's going to go. I don't see him. You're talking about Jarrett Patterson, I believe, Carlos. Great player. Probably not going to get picked in the first. He's probably not going in the first few rounds of the draft. I mean, I can see him he's going to get drafted. And maybe he's going to get underdrafted. You may be right, because small guys can play now in the NFL. But I'm not sure that somebody's going to take a leap of faith on him and take him in the first couple of rounds. So, yeah, the guys you bring up though, Ricky, and you bring up Emmitt Smith, these guys drafted 20 years ago. Recent history says running backs don't go early. Saquon Barkley is an aberration. I can't think of other guys. One of you guys can, bring them up. So anyway, listen, draft is going to be huge. A lot of speculation, a lot of rumor. I think there's going to be trades up and down the board during draft day. I really do. I think teams are going to move. I think the Ravens are going to move. Oh, that's what I wanted to bring up. I read an interesting article just this morning, I think, that the Ravens are considering, especially with the draft capital they have, using it to move up and find a way to draft a Justin Fields and letting Lamar Jackson play out his option, become a free agent, and then this is going to be their strategy going forward. They're never going to pay their quarterback. They're going to pay them the rookie scale, let them get good, and then have them graduate like a college would. So you got a quarterback for 3 or 4 years, and then he graduates, and you have a new quarterback that you drafted to bring in. So Lamar Jackson would theoretically, in this situation, would matriculate and graduate from the Ravens and move to elsewhere, and Justin Fields would assume his position. And I'm assuming they would plan the same thing for Justin Fields later on. I think it's an interesting strategy. An interesting strategy for any NFL team to partake. I don't know if it will work. You'd have to be really, really good and lucky to be able to continue to draft guys. And the problem is, how many times you're going to be in a position to be able to draft that guy who's going to take that number one guy's place. I mean, one of the reasons the Patriots may have to take a quarterback early and maybe even trade up, which I have said for a long time won't happen, is because you're not in a position to get one of the best quarterbacks every year. Patriots certainly not have been in that position. They're drafting 15th, and they could trade up because they do have collateral to trade up, but you're not in this position very often where you can take one of the top quarterbacks. So it'll be interesting. So I don't know if that whole process could possibly work that the Ravens are considering. Be interesting to see if that is in fact a true thing. But from this article, at least, discussions have been happening internally about the Ravens enacting this strategy this year and going forward. We'll see. It'll be very interesting. But again, they're one of the teams now that have a lot of capital after this trade for Brown to be able to kind of move up the board. And I just think you're going to see a lot of activity on draft night. And I want to remind you, I'll be co-hosting on the Mac and Jack Show right here live on Northeast Streaming Sports, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on all your podcasts. If you can't get to a TV, listen to us. And also, I think on Zodiac TV. We'll be doing the entire draft, the entire first round of the draft. It's going to be a long day, guys, long night. We'll be on at 6 o'clock Eastern time. I think the draft starts at 8. And we'll be doing every pick through the draft. We'll be doing some predictions. We'll have people on to talk about picks before they happen, to analyze them after they happen. For certain teams, not every team, but for certain teams. I hope you guys will join us. Share your comments. We'll do the best we can to, as we always do, to get your comments up and react to them. Be a lot going on that night, though, so it may not be as easy. But if you're tired of watching ESPN and the NFL Network, watch us. We're going to have some fun. Myself and Mac and Jack from the Mac and Jack Sports Show, and a lot of the other shows are going to be contributing from the Northeast Streaming Sports Network as well. Jamie Paggs, the Philly sports guy, is going to be live on site at the draft in Cleveland. And we'll have other people coming on to talk about certain picks of their teams as well. Some reporters, some of our Northeast streaming sports people, and things like that. We're going to have a lot of fun that night. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great fun. Listen, lastly, before I wrap up the NFL, and then we're going to talk quickly. We'll wrap up the show and talk about the great coaches that were also great. I'm sorry, the great players were also great coaches. I want to continue that discussion just a little bit, and hopefully you guys have a little bit chance to think about it. I do have two names that were thrown out. The last thing on the NFL before we move on, some sad news. Steve Mcmichael, the great defensive lineman from those great '80s Chicago Bears teams, announced this week that he's struggling with ALS. Just a hideous disease, guys. If you've ever known anybody that's had it, or my heart goes out to anybody who has family members or themselves that are suffering from ALS. It's a horrific disease, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Drew, I'll bring that up. Just a horrible disease, and so it's funny. A lot of NFL players have had this affliction recently in recent years, and it could be attributed to the CTE stuff that goes on, and it's hard to say how related they are. But there has been a few two players. I know Steve Gleason from New Orleans, Turner, or gosh, I want to get the wrong guy. There's a New England running back. I want to say Turner from the Patriots. He played back in the '90s. Who came down with who had ALS. There's a few guys, so I don't know if it's related or not, but very sad news, and our heart goes out, and our sympathies go to Steve Mcmichael and his family. So, all right, let's wrap up the show today. We've got 14 minutes or so to talk about this. So, a couple names that got thrown out before Drew does. I doubt that I can find your comments, Rick and Kenny, but Kenny brought up Dusty Baker. Good name. I said Joe Torre, by the way, was a guy that came to mind first for me as guys that were really good players. Not a Hall of Fame player, though. Remember, let's think about that fact, too. Steve Nash, a Hall of Famer. That's what brought this topic up. I had Torre. Kenny brings up Kenny Baker. Who's Kenny Baker? He's a race car driver, I think. He brings up Dusty Baker. Couple problems there. Dusty Baker, great player. Certainly compares, I think, very favorably with Joe Torre's career as a player. Not Hall of Fame caliber, but he's the Hall of very good. Problem with Baker is he doesn't have any world championships to show for it. A lot of really, really good teams. Heck, he didn't make the playoffs one year when he won 100 games with the Giants. So, Dusty Baker has to be in a conversation, though, as best players to become a good manager. And then Rick threw somebody out. Rick, I can't find it. I hope you're still here. Can't remember who you threw out. Did I write it down? I wrote it down. I can't read my writing. Awesome. Let's see, Rick. Help me out, Rick. What do you got? Dusty Baker. Here we go. Jerry Sloan. Here's Kenny's comment with Dusty Baker, by the way. Rick had thrown out Jerry Sloan. Jerry Sloan, great player with the Chicago Bulls. Again, not a Hall of Famer. Great coach with the Jazz. Never got over the top and won a championship. But I would say, he'd be in the topic of conversation. But what's the benchmark going to be? When I say Joe Torre won a bunch of World Series, guys. A bunch. Never as a player, but as a manager. And he was a really, really good. He's probably in the Hall of very good as a player. Let's see now. Let's get to Drew, because Drew had I haven't read this. Oh, that's Kenny. I want to get to Drew's first here. We'll go back to you guys. Top baseball managers, 65 with 1,000 wins or more. There's only 3 Hall of Fame hitters: Cap Hansen, Frankie Frisch, and Frank Robinson. Yeah, and I'm going to say I'm not sure about Anson or Frisch. Frisch might have won a world championship as a manager. I'm not positive, Drew. You can give me that stat because I don't think you pulled this out of your head. Um, Frank Robinson never won a World Series. Great manager at times, right? First black manager. I mean that alone is significant in the history of Major League Baseball. But he didn't. I mean, with Cleveland, he never had a good team. With San Francisco, I think he had one winning season. Um, he did turn around a Baltimore team that was really horrible and get them going right. He managed the Expos, um, and then I think he managed them when they got to became the Nationals as well. And they were competitive teams, but they never. I don't think any made the playoffs. I don't know that Frank Robinson ever managed in the playoffs. That'd be my argument against him. So Frank Robinson, we just talked about Kenny. It's a good one though. Player coach too. Frank Robinson. It's a good point. Oh, wait a minute. I think we got Bill Russell. I missed one here. So Carlos mentions Bill Russell. Bill Russell actually is a great, great example, and he may be the best. Had slipped my mind. Bill Russell, obviously, one of the great NBA players of all time, one of the great winners in all of sports history. When we talk about winning players, it's hard to kind of top Bill Russell's record in college and the pros as a player. He became the player coach, as Carlos also mentions here, and he won a world championship with the Celtics as a coach. And I think he was a player coach the year they won. Carlos, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe the best example of all. Great one. That's a great one. What else we got here? Torrey with the world's best owner. Well, look at. Let's remember something. Let's remember something about George Steinbrenner. I'm a Yankee fan. I've always been a Yankee fan. George Steinbrenner was not the best owner in the history of baseball. The Yankees did not get good again after 1978 until George got suspended. And Gene Mcmichael and Buck Showalter rebuilt that team that he had destroyed through the 80s and the early 90s and built it back up from the ground. And the first thing George did when he came back, by the way, not the first thing. One of the first things he did was fire Buck Showalter. Buck Showalter, I don't know if he would have won the World Series that Torrey won. It's hard to say. Different personalities on the team and certainly handled players differently. Buck Showalter is a great manager. George Steinbrenner was not a great owner. He wanted to win. Yes, a really good pick there for Carlos. Mike Ditka? That's not a bad pick either, Carlos. Another good one. Great career with the Bears and the Cowboys. He won sure if he won with the Bears or not. He played with the Bears before the Super Bowl era. With the Cowboys, I think he did win a Super Bowl, and he definitely, obviously, won as a coach with the Bears. So that's another good one. Carlos is all over this. Drew says Frankie Frisch won a World Series as a player manager in 1934. Good call, Drew. Bill Russell won on every level. Agreed. As I said, Carlos, one of the great winners of all time, right? And Carlos takes it to every level. I'd forgotten about high school, and I neglected to mention the Olympics. Tremendous player. He played at San Francisco in college. Won, I think, multiple national championships there. Won the Olympics. Won in the NBA. He probably is the GOAT. I won't bring that up. So, Drew, you can answer that question for Rick. Cap Anson won five NL pennants as a player manager. Did he win the World Series though? Oh, 1880s, right? Okay, so before then. Yep, we talked about Ditka. Ditka did win with the Bears before the Super Bowl era. Okay, good. Thank you, Sam. Sam, welcome to the show, by the way. I don't think I've seen Sam's name pop up in our comments at least. I welcome you to your first comment that I've shared, Sam. Always like seeing new people join us for our conversation, and I hope you will join us on Sundays. It's because I like to get the audience involved, as my regulars will attest. I try to interact with you guys as best I can. Sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't. Carlos going back to Bill Russell. San Francisco hasn't won again. Yeah, they've really had good teams. Pete Newell, you can help me out here, Carlos. I believe Pete Newell was a coach of that San Francisco Dons team, and probably left in the early '60s. But he became something of a mentor to a lot of big men through the rest of his career. Ditka won with the Fridge. So one with Walter Payton. You know, one of the big things I have against Mike Ditka, and this is great. We still got a couple minutes. I'm in trouble with my glasses. I think my glasses slid down. My progressives. I'm having trouble with the computers these days. So, let's before I go on to this comment. Yeah, Coach Newsom or Coach Newell. Yeah, great coach. Ditka won with the Fridge. One of my big problems with Mike Ditka. Introducing. I don't know what that was. One of my big problems with Mike Ditka. How many times can I repeat myself? Is the question we're up onto now. What is during that Super Bowl? And as a Patriot fan, it was painful. By the way, I'd like to point out we were ahead 3-0 in that game. Next time I looked up, it was 35-3. But that game is out of hand, and the Bears drive for a touchdown. Again, I don't know if it was their last touchdown or their fourth touchdown, whatever it was. He puts the circus act, Fridge Perry, the refrigerator Perry, in the game to score a touchdown, and does not give his record-setting, tremendous player give it his all, everything he ever had, he left on the field. Walter Payton, the football, to score a touchdown in a Super Bowl. His only Super Bowl in his illustrious career, and Ditka does him the disservice of not even giving him a chance to score a touchdown. And he gives it to Perry. I have a problem with that, and I have for years. So, biggest mistake ever, I agree. Horrible call. I'm assuming we're on the same page here yet, Carlos. So, again, Ditka was a good coach. Good coach. Great topic, guys. We had that was a good discussion. And Carlos, you win the prize for finding Bill Russell or coming up with Bill Russell. I hadn't thought of Bill Russell. Drew, you had some good ones in there as well. They're all good choices. And probably the best. I mean, again, but think about it. In the history of sports, we came up with about 7 guys. Not a lot. Not a lot. And one of them, well, actually, Drews, we got to go back quite a ways to get to Drews, but only a couple of them are Hall of Fame players. And Bill Russell wasn't a Hall of Fame coach. He did win a world championship. So, anyway, I think it was a great topic to end the show with today. I'm glad you guys were with me. Sam, welcome. Glad to see you here with us today. I hope you'll join us more, and I hope you'll share the show, guys. Share the show. Share it with your friends. Get them to join and follow both TGI Sports Talk and the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. We're growing leaps and bounds. We're getting towards 1,200 followers on TGI Sports Talk. Northeast Streaming Sports in just a few months is surging towards 2,000 followers. So On the other hand, lots of Hall of Fame players were awful as managers and coaches. Well, that's kind of what the flip side of it. We could be here all day. Maybe we'll talk about that as a topic next week, guys. Think about that. Our topic next week, one of our topics next week, Hall of Fame players who were terrible coaches. Let's bring that up. Guys, we're out of time. Been a great Sunday morning. I love spending my Sunday morning with you guys, my Sunday morning guys. Lenny Wilkens. Yikes. Great coach. He did win. Actually, Lenny Wilkens is a great player and a great coach. He's not a bad pick, Carlos. Guys, join me on my next. I'll be on Zodiac TV Tuesday and Thursday mornings with quick updates at 7:30. As I said, very short daily updates. I'll be on live on Thursday for the draft with Mac and Jack on the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Next Friday, I'll have Mike Heath, former Major League Baseball player, member of the 1978 World Champion Yankees, the World Series champion Yankees. And next Sunday, we'll be back here with you guys. By the way, a couple of weeks, Denny McLain, the last 30-game winner in baseball. Can't wait. Guys, Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk and Northeast Streaming Sports. See you later. Have a great Sunday.